Lecture 4, Market Entry Strategies, Global Market Entry Strategies, Part 1. The secret to excelling at global marketing strategy. Expectations. Learn the core global marketing strategy theories and frameworks covered in the lecture slides. Learn from your international community, fellow international classmates. Practice through the simulation and assignment. Be curious about the marketing world. GMS course flow diagram and your IMP structure. Learn the core theories. As a review, Lecture 1, Introduction, the decision whether to internationalize. Next, Lecture 2, Market Selection, External Environment. Next, Lecture 3, External Environment, Global Marketing Research. And Lecture 4, Global Marketing Entry Strategies. The How question. Concept 1, Entry Mode. Definition. Entry mode is an institutional arrangement necessary for the entry of a company's product and service into a new foreign market. Hollinson, 2014. Menti slide. Be curious about the marketing world. So what are the different ways companies can enter into other country markets? Use examples. 3 ways to decide. Strategy for entry mode selection. 3 rules. 1. Naive rule. Same entry mode for all foreign markets. Heterogeneity of individual markets ignored. 2. Pragmatic rule. Workable entry mode for each foreign market. Low risk entry mode. May not be optimum entry mode, more common for SMEs. 3. Strategy rule. All alternatives are systematically compared and evaluated. Suggested additional reading, Source Root 1994, Entry Strategies for International Markets. Menti slide. Be curious about the marketing world. So, what influences that decision? Internal factors, external factors? Use company and country examples. Market entry decision criteria. Company objectives and expectations, size and financial resources, existing foreign market involvement, skills, abilities, and attitudes of company management, nature and power of the competition within the market, nature of existing and anticipated tariff and non-tariff barriers, legal and infrastructure limitations, nature of the product, service. Summary. Internal factors affecting mode choice. Firm size. SMEs likely to enter using export modes, given lack of resources to achieve high control. As the firm grows, moves to hierarchical mode. International experiences. Reduces cost and uncertainty. Favors direct investment in the form of wholly owned subsidiaries. Hierarchical modes. Direct experience in international markets increases likelihood of committing extra resources to foreign markets. Product or service. Mode of entry very much depends on the nature of the product or service. Value, complexity, production, manufacturing, after-sales service required, etc. Services vary according to decoupling of production and consumption influences mode of entry. Summary. External factors affecting mode choice. Sociocultural distance. Sociocultural distance between a firm's home country and its host country can create uncertainty influencing mode of entry. The greater the distance, the more likely a joint venture or agent or importer, low risk. Country risk demand uncertainty. Besides investment, firms risk inventories and receivables. Other risks include exchange rate, economic, political risk. Market size and growth. Larger country, higher growth rate encourages commitment of resources in wholly owned subsidiaries or joint ventures. Smaller countries may be best supplied by export or license agreement. Minimal resource committed required. External factors continued. Direct and indirect trade barriers, tariffs or quotas on import of foreign goods favors hierarchical mode. Preferences to buy national, local suppliers will encourage joint venture or other intermediate modes. Local partner will aid in diffusion of foreign image. Trade barriers encourage sourcing, production, and development in local markets. Intensity of competition. The greater the competition in the host market, the greater the tendency towards export modes with lower resource commitment. Smaller number of intermediaries, fewer export intermediaries leads to opportunistic behavior, monopoly, encourages the use of the hierarchical modes to reduce scope for opportunistic behavior. Summary. Desired mode characteristics. Risk aversion. Risk aversion leads to export modes or licensing requiring lower financial and resource commitment, may result in loss of opportunity. Control. Management seeking total control over operations will tend towards hierarchical modes, providing most control but also substantial commitment of resources. Flexibility. Hierarchical modes requires the most equity investments, are the least flexible and most difficult to change. Similarly, intermediate modes limit the firm's ability to change strategy given the nature of contractual arrangements. Transaction Cost Analysis, TCA Model. In this diagram, we illustrate the transactional costs. Country A is the seller/producer, and country B is the buyer, export intermediary, who then sells to the end user. Friction exists between the seller and the buyer because the buyer/export intermediary wants to sell at a larger profit to the end customer, or the opportunistic costs, or the transaction costs, ex ante cost, search costs of contracting costs, ex post costs, monitoring costs, and enforcement costs. To avoid this, a seller/producer would prefer vertical integration to reduce transaction costs or a hierarchical approach. Factors influencing choice of entry mode. This diagram illustrates the different factors we need to consider in determining the most suitable entry mode. The entry mode options are hierarchical, intermediate, and export modes. We need to consider internal factors, external factors, desired mode characteristics, and transactional specific behavior. We would expect this type of framework and analysis in assignment 2.